Him, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty fine, amigos. Estamos aquí con Him, el cantante anónimo de la banda británica de progresivo Sermon. Acaban de lanzar su nuevo álbum of Golden Birds. Well, Him, let's talk about this new release of Golden Bird. Your sophomore album is out now. How has the public received your new material?
I mean, I think pretty good actually. I've only seen good reviews. Um, some of them have been quite. It's been pretty mind blowing actually. I was really worried that it wouldn't be well received, the album, because I guess you just live with it for so long and no one's heard it. Um, so yeah, I no, I'm pleased with it. I mean, it hasn't. We don't tour a lot, so the audience hasn't grown hugely, but it's been the critics have liked it.
4 years have passed since the release of The Birth of the Marvelous, your debut album. What's the main difference between the creative process between these two albums?
Um, I think actually this album took a lot longer to write than the first one. Um, it's also a lot angrier because I think I felt angrier. Um, the first one was very much done within a year, whereas this one took maybe 2 or so years to do, to write, and then another, few months to record it, and another year for it to then come out. So the creative process with they're not dissimilar. I'm still just sat there just playing guitar on the sofa, but to get the ideas to come out took a bit longer on this one.
You said you are angriest in this new album. The music sounds uh, pretty heavier than the previous one. Do you think the great pause, the state of the world with the pandemics, was a great, how shall I say, um, had something to do with this state of mind you had when you create the album?
You know what? It didn't actually because the pandemic stopped me writing completely. The anger was much before then. Things just in life weren't going that well, and it made me. I'm not an angry person in my day-to-day life, really, but music is a good way to sort of take it out on something. And as a result, it was just more aggressive. It was faster. It was heavier. There was more kind of guitar riffs, and but yeah, it didn't have much to do with the pandemic, honestly. In fact, that slowed it down because I just didn't feel the need to write anything. It was creatively void for me.
Of Golden Birds is more diverse than your debut album, I say. Uh, I can hear touches from other genres like black metal, even metalcore. What do you want to achieve with this new sermon sound?
I don't tend to think too much about a genre when I'm writing. I know that it's gonna be metal. I know there's gonna be distortion on the guitars. That's about as much as I know. Everything else is kind of a bad habit. Like I think I just, I quite want to write a listenable chorus, but then I'll just decide that there might be a blast beat behind it. And I think that probably hinders our growth, but it feels right to do at the time. But I don't tend to come at it from a genre point. I don't think, oh, sermon's got to have some black metal in it. It's not. It's got to have some doom in it. It's got to have death metal. That just doesn't. It. All I think of it as is like, how do I get the intensity of the music up, and then how do I contrast it in a way? How do I how do I get emphasis between the parts? That's sort of how I think. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't think in genres very much.
I have read many opinions that compare sermon with projects like Tool, like Catatonia, Porcupine Tree. Do you think this is fair, or with whom would you compare it?
I think um, I think it's fair to say that the first album had quite a lot of Tool flavor to it. I think from what I've read, actually, the press release basically said for fans of Tool when they sent out of Golden Verse, and you can see a lot of critics being a little bit frustrated with that because it's just not true with this album. There's some parts. There's some quite tom heavy drumming, which I think is the what the Tool influence is, because I do like the way Danny Carey plays drums. But it doesn't really sound like Tool, I don't think. I think if you were going in expecting for another Tool band, you'd be a bit disappointed because you'd be like, why is there all this double kick and blasting over my music? I think it's fair. I mean, I think it's a fair comment, but I think I think I'd say it's fairly difficult to pin down what we sound like. I just think it sounds like metal, honestly.
Of course. Let me know what's your motivation to remain anonymous?
That's really just to make my day job a bit easier. Um, I think the other thing is, like, I guess my face is pretty boring, and I don't really look like I should play the music that Sermon makes. You would never think, looking at me in the street, that I did this. So in that sense, having a different face really helps the music. It really helps visualize the music, I think. At the same time, I think it would just annoy people because they think it's lame having a mask in a band. But I don't think it's too different from black metal bands, really. They don't really get people complaining about face paint. So I think it's important to us, and it's going to stay. Even if people find out who I am, I think it would still stay.
Do you have another musical project?
I hmm. That's a good. That's a good question. Technically there is an EP out there, which is how I met James, but this was maybe 12 years ago. But I actually have an album of almost singer-songwriter type acoustic music that I'm wanting to record, but it won't be sermon. So the answer is not yet, but I will have something else. And I'm not sure if anyone will find out, but we'll see.
Okay, this mask, in case you have another musical project, do you think this mask, this anonymous, the anonymous thing can help you and your music to avoid this, comparisons, the fans' expectations? Because there's a lot of musicians that have two or three or four, a lot of projects, and maybe the fans have some expectations, and when the musician doesn't uh, made it, they they laid it down. Okay, do you think this can help?
Yes, and that is something I've thought of before. So it would be good to release any other kind of musical stuff without it being, I guess, judged with sermon. You'd be able to take it on its own. So I think that does carry an advantage, yes.
Sermon is not a band characterized by playing live, but will this change for this new stage?
I'm really trying, um, but it's really hard because we've not had any offers. Um, I We're thinking of doing a London show, but there's some problems already. The first problem being of the venue that could hold us. The stage is really too small, and to go up a size in stage, I think we'd need a bigger fan base, maybe. So it's really difficult. It's really difficult. I don't know the best way to do it, honestly. I what I don't want to do is go through all the effort of rehearsing for weeks on end to do a shit sounding show. I think that's pointless, and I'd just rather not do it at all. So really, I'm hoping for festivals. That's what we need. I think we just need festival slots. Um, but of course, until people know that we can play live, they're not likely to book us. So it's a real problem. I don't know how to solve it.
Mexico had a great reception for prog projects in the last couple of years. Would you like to come?
Say again.
Would you like to come to Mexico?
Yes. Oh my God. That's my actually my number one place to come. I would love, I think, and certainly I think that the fans that we have there are the most enthusiastic, I would say. Um, and also the food. I want the food. Give me the food. I would love to do it.
Well, him, thank you so much for your time. Your new album is great. I really loved it. And I bought it to the vinyl. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you here in Mexico sometime.
You and me both, my friend. Take care.
Take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.